Well, hi everyone. This is Penny with Evilsizor and Associates, and this is my father, Rex.
Hi there.
And we're going to be talking to you today about what is interstate transportation. So I just thought it would be kind of fun to interview my father, and he typed up this document, and it's going to be linked in the comments below, or in the description below, and so you can print that out and use it for some training purposes. Or just information. So, what is interstate transportation, Dad?
What is interstate transportation?
That's a loaded question.
That is a loaded question. So many people are applying for authority today that I know have no clue as to what interstate transportation is. They say, well, the truck goes from one point in one state to a point in another state. No, it has nothing to do with what the truck is moving.
I have a lot of people that say, well, I never go outside the state.
Correct. Most transportation in the United States, in every state, the majority of it is interstate. So,
Did you catch that?
In my opinion, the authority to have today, since you really don't know what interstate is to have both interstate and intrastate. Have both of them. And why is that? It's called insurance. That's the only reason to have authority today is to have insurance. So when you pick up a load at a warehouse in, say, Colorado and move it to another point in Colorado, your truck never left the state, but chances are 99% of that vehicle moving is interstate transportation. Let me give you a couple of other examples. But what is interstate? It's surface transportation, the furtherance of the commodity.
Yeah,
okay.
That's one thing you've always locked in my head.
It's the commodity. Yeah, it's a commodity. It's not your vehicle.
Right.
So what interstate transportation started with the Interstate Commerce Commission a long time ago, and it has to do with surface transportation and subsurface transportation. Now let's take the subsurface first. What is subsurface? Everybody in the state is using gasoline. Gasoline comes in and picked up my truck and taken to filling stations where we buy it. That's a furtherance of interstate transportation. It came in from another state, another country, from where? Now the rest of it, surface transportation, has to do with railroads, trucking companies, bus lines, freight forwarders, water carriers. I think I listed them all. So on the south side of Denver, there is a railroad station that automobiles come in, they unload them, they leave that point in at that location and go to other points in Colorado, maybe other states. All of that is a furtherance of interstate transportation. They came in by rail, they went out.
So, we don't have any manufacturing plants here that I know of.
Right.
And if they're coming in from rail, they have to come in where we're located.
Exactly.
They're coming in from another state.
So if you're picking up a load at a warehouse, chances are that come in from another state. Even though your truck never doesn't leave Colorado, that's a furtherance of interstate transportation. So when you look at a bill of lading, there's an origin and a destination. There's a consignee and a consignor. And those are the words you need to be looking for. Has it reached its destination? If it hasn't, it's still furtherance of interstate transportation. Now what the problem here could be, let's say you picked up one of these loads and you have intrastate authority only. And while you're moving that from one point in Colorado to another point in Colorado, you have a drastic accident. Everything is destroyed.
That's where the problem comes in.
That's where the big problem is, because you don't have insurance, because
Right.
you don't have the proper authority. If I was operating within the state of Colorado, I would definitely have both authorities. You need intrastate and interstate. to
Right.
handle these. Then you don't have to ask the question, where did this come from?
Right.
Because if there's an
Then
accident,
you're covered.
then you're covered.
Right.
You want to be covered by the insurance. Otherwise, you're not covered.
And plaintiffs' attorneys will pounce on that. If you're in an accident, they're going to dissect your authority,
yes, they will.
and you're done.
They
So,
will. Yes,
make sure you've got the right authority.
exactly.
You need an MC number when a lot of people don't. And we've noticed that here in Colorado. They just say, I'm going from this point to this point. Well, but it's not about you. Sorry, it's not. It's about
Yes.
the commodity that you're hauling.
Right.
That's what determines whether you're interstate or intrastate.
You got it.
Yeah. So let's see, for hire versus exempt or private.
Everybody's got for hire. That's what you get your authority for.
Right. That's your MC. But there are other, like construction companies, they don't need an MC number if they're hauling their own equipment.
They're hauling their own
from
equipment.
one place
That's right.
to another. Lawn care, we notice, is another one. And then exempt, that's your agriculture and farm. And you just have to check.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want to know where you find all these regulations, go to where she said the website is and download this. And when you get it,
You'll get a copy. It'll be here.
feel free to send it to other people. But the regulations are in here, 49 CFR, 49, Title 49, Code of Federal Regulation, and go to there, and it'll tell you what we're talking about. The one we're talking about presently is 49 CFR 390-.5T, definitions.
Yeah.
You go there and you'll find these.
I mean, I know it's not fun to read the regulations.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Who sits down and reads the regulations?
But they're going to read it if there's any loss or damage.
Yeah, attorneys will read it.
Oh, definitely.
And so you need to know. So that's why, we're doing this little training session. And another point, Dad, that you mentioned is there's a place in Texas, and I know other states as well, even if you're hauling an we'll say it's an intrastate, let's say you're going from Amarillo to El Paso, the interstate goes through a little bit of New Mexico, doesn't it?
Correct, and that's interstate transportation.
So you better have that.
Now we're saying El Paso. Is it going to El Paso to somebody there, or is it going to go across the bridge into Mexico?
Good point.
Good point.
So
They're both interstate.
Right.
They're both.
So it wouldn't matter.
No, even though the point in the is in the state of Texas, and it's going to a point in the Texas, you're going through New Mexico to get there.
Right.
That's
Right.
furtherance, and that's interstate transportation.
So in your opinion, what is the definition of an intrastate?
Intrastate, wholly, I would use the word wholly, WHOLLY, wholly within the state. Now, the product we're talking about, not the vehicle. So if you manufacture something in Fort Worth and you move it to Dallas, to me that's intrastate.
Mm-hmm.
But if you pick something up at the border that come from Mexico and take it to Dallas, that's interstate. It come from another country.
Even like the Port of Houston.
Exactly.
They have two ports down there. It's coming in from another country.
Right.
So that would also be interstate.
That's surface
even though you might be picking it up in Houston and then traveling to San Antonio. You're not leaving the state. But again, it's not about you. Sorry. But it's about the commodity and the origin and destination.
Now, one more thing that we have not covered. What happens if it comes in by airport? From the airport to any place else within the state, that's intrastate. Because it's not surface or subsurface. But if it's surface or
It
subsurface,
comes in by air.
if surface or subsurface, that's a continuation of interstate transportation. By air, no. It begins maybe at DFW, and you move the load from there to any other point in Texas within the state, wholly within, that's intrastate.
It's a good point.
That's about the only one I could think of that would be intrastate.
And so we know now there's really not any difference between common and contract.
No, that's been.
But, so that's kind of like just general motor carrier.
Mm-hmm.
So explain the definition of a freight forwarder. Because
Freight
people
forwarder.
Apply for this every day.
Every day.
I did a statistic or a calculation the other day. 29 people applied for freight forwarder in the U.S. on one given day. which you just paid the government an extra $8,700
Mm-hmm.
for no reason at all. It's just because the application's not intuitive. People think, oh yeah, I'm forwarding freight, but that's not
Exactly.
the definition.
No, it isn't. You could look at a freight forwarder is it's a movement of a shipment, a product that is coming into a warehouse.
That's key.
And you don't need a truck. You can have trucks, or you don't need trucks. If you're just moving it in and out of a warehouse, it might be in the warehouse for months or months or months, but it's still a continuation. The warehouse is not the destination.
Mm-hmm. It's just a transference.
It's just a
Because sometimes they'll unload that truck and they'll do like LTLs
right.
in that city.
That's another reason I would have both interstate and intrastate authority. So if you've got intrastate now, and this is some of what you're doing,
Yeah.
I wouldn't wait any other time. Start your interstate authority. Yep,
Yeah.
talk to your
So
insurance agent.
if you're applying yourself, which we recommend that you hire a professional, because we know the ins and outs of this application that can save you
Mhm.
that $300 that you just paid for nothing. But if you are going to do it yourself, don't checkmark freight forwarder unless you know exactly what it is.
Is that what you want to do?
And we do have a definition all written out. It'll be in the description, but we also have a blog post at milesoftrainingblog.com that explains that very thing.
Right.
So, it's important that you apply for the right things. Every day we see somebody applying for the wrong thing. It's good to apply for motor carrier authority if you're operating long haul trucks. But there's some extra little tidbits that you need to know depending on your type of operation. So that's why we're doing this little session for you. So we did example number 1. This is interstate commerce examples. We did example number 1, automobiles brought into the Denver, Colorado area by railroad. That's key right there, by railroad. Once they're unloaded, the automobiles are continued by truck to their Colorado destination, interstate. Example number 2, fuel oil coming into Denver by pipeline, because that's subsurface. So we're just kind of reiterating this. And moves further by trucks and tankers to Colorado destination. Again, interstate. Commodities are brought into warehouses, such as freight forwarders. So that's interstate.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to know if you're a freight forwarder, because there's different requirements. It's kind of broker-ish, sort of.
Sort of, but they're not.
The federal motor carrier kind of puts it on that side of the balance sheet because they have to have broker bond.
Mm-hmm. They also
weird.
don't take possession of the
right.
product.
So there's no liability insurance, just cargo. So know what you're doing. Figure out how you're going to operate. Then example number 4 was what we talked about, the Port of Houston. Things coming in off of containers, off ships. Commodities arrive by ship to Houston. The commodities are then moved by trucks to other Texas destinations. Same thing with LA, Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
Any place that has a port. Miami would have a port of entry. At the Gulf, or at the Atlantic, at the Gulf, any waterway would be considered interstate.
Exactly.
So Dad says you should have both interstate, intrastate. Check with your state. Not all states require, if you have an MC number, that usually covers your intrastate authority. In Texas, it doesn't. Ohio, it doesn't, depending on the commodity. If you're hazardous materials, you most likely have to have it. If you're household goods, you most likely have to have intrastate. You should have both freight and household goods for motor carrier and broker in certain instances. So that's going to be another training session that we'll probably do next week. And then make sure you have the proper insurance. Depending on what you're hauling, if you're hauling automobiles, then you should have $1 million. If you're just general freight, $750 is the minimum. However, $1 million is usually industry standard. You'll find that out when you start working with brokers. They're going to ask probably for $1 million. And so check with your insurance agent on that. So the purpose of knowing the movement of the commodity freight and or household goods is to ensure that the carriers have the proper insurance. Everything
Exactly.
boils down to insurance.
Do you want to
Because
be personally responsible, or
Right.
you're paying for insurance? You want that to be responsible.
right, so you want to be in those guidelines
Mm-hmm.
in case things happen. There's accidents, cargo gets damaged. I mean, stuff happens. And so if your insurance can't cover that because you didn't know which authority to choose, that's hard.
Mm.
You're going to be out of business really, really quick, sometimes before you get started.
Exactly. You want to know.
You do.
And if you don't know, get both authorities. And then you should have the proper insurance at
Right.
that time. I
And,
want to be covered.
and it was just like the other day, Dad's neighbor's moving. And so for fun, we were looking up their authority. Well, his neighbor's moving from Colorado to Florida. Well, the person that they hired is a Colorado intrastate household goods mover. They can't do that legally
If
unless
they're-
the only other thing is that they contracted it out. But if they contracted it out,
they're a broker.
that's a broker, and he didn't have a broker's license. So it was just kind of messed up all the way around. So we'll hope that their stuff gets to the other side. It doesn't get caught. I mean, there's a lot of states between here and Florida, that they could, port of entry officer.
And
could
if there's
catch
any
them.
loss or damage en route,
That's a problem.
there's a big problem.
There's a big problem.
A big lawsuit coming.
So know who you're doing business with as
Exactly.
well. But, if you're starting your own company as a carrier, know which authority. And, call us. I'll put the number here. And you can call us and we'll be happy to chat with you and make a determination what you need to start your business. And you can
Exactly.
always add later, if you're just going to do general freight now, you're going to do cars later, you might decide that the business opportunity is better for that, then you can always change, your authority and still keep your MC and DOT number. So I think this was great information, Dad. Thanks for putting all this together. And again, we'll put the links in the description, and you can have a copy of this document, and stay tuned for our next session. Bye.
Bye.